From the Campione Law Studios in the heart of Duval County, Florida, this is the unofficial Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Your host, Seth Studer. Damn. We get that mellow music this time. Mellow theme only. Damn. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 6th episode of the unofficial Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. My name is Seth Studer. Before we start, I'd like to thank Campione Law for sponsoring this. Again, when bad things happen to good people, you get in a motor vehicle accident, give us a call. We'd be happy to help you out. Well, since our last episode, at least we won the bye week, right? But before the bye week, we get trounced across the pond in London. 35-7 to the Rams. And we got a very special guest on here. Tron Carter, TC from No Laying Up, is going to be joining us here real soon. Just some quick thoughts on everything here before that interview. And we don't even deserve an opening segment. I'm just going to just say that it feels like the Jaguars are aging like wine right now, right? What was a great offensive line has soured, allowing against the Seahawks 7 sacks, against the Rams 7 sacks, the most in Trevor Lawrence's career back-to-back. The run game has just not looked up to snuff. Now, these are good opponents, the Seahawks and the Rams, but come on, make a showing. And it's funny because, there was some ref ball earlier with that Parker Washington called back punt return touchdown. And it's weird to say, hey, we lost 35-7. It was closer than it looked. Actually, it was, but, it doesn't really matter. You still get stomped. Are you a contender or a pretender? Salvation or surrender? Well, we're a pretender and we surrendered. That's clear. And Trevor played fine. But you got to catch the ball. BTJ, what's going on? What's going on? But Trevor throws for what? 296, almost 300. And Matt Stafford, 182, 5 touchdowns. Right? And you just saw Liam Cohen going for it over and over, just trying to get some momentum because he's like, hey, if we don't get, a touchdown here, whatever. It's out of reach. And you got Cam Little missing kicks. So it is, thank God we have this bye week because the easier part of our schedule is coming up. And lest I remind you, 4-3 going into the bye, that's not bad. Right? I would have taken that. You would have taken that. To have a winning team win 4 games of their first 7 when they won 4 all of last year, right? So, and you like to see Travis Hunter balling out there against the Rams. You like to see some things, but it was just what a crappy way to, enter the bye. However, what a opportune time for the Jaguars to turn it around because we are playing one of the doormat teams, the Raiders, also coming off a bye here this Sunday in Las Vegas. And we'll see who shows up. But, we get into all that and more with Tron Carter, TC of No Laying Up here. Great discussion. You guys are going to love it. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the unofficial Jacksonville Jaguars podcast for our second guest. First, we had Fred Taylor. Next, we have, in my opinion, a prognosticator of the highest order. He is one of the core members of No Laying Up, probably the best golf content creation thing right now. It is Mr. Tron Carter. TC, welcome in.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I feel like I'm a definitive step down from your first guest, Fred Taylor. But hopefully I can rise to the occasion here and talk some ball this morning.
You are a definitive hot take, prognosticator, an artist, though. And that's why I wanted your skills to be here this morning. So thank you for coming on. Let's start with this. Just to tell the folks here about your history with the Jaguars. How long have you been here? Since when have you been a fan? And, what is your current kind of status on the Jags right now?
Yeah, so I moved here. I grew up in Atlanta, grew up a Falcons fan, which kind of a tortured history there, not dissimilar from the Jaguars.
Yeah, been there.
Yeah. And moved from there to Boston with my wife after we got married. Lived there for a couple of years. Actually, only championship parade I've ever seen was the Patriots. Championship parade started right a block away from our apartment after the 28-3 debacle. So that was tough. And I've just kind of I was never a Dan Quinn guy. I'm not a Raheem Morris guy. I do like Michael Penix, but I'm just off. I've been off the Falcons pretty much since I moved here. We moved here in 2017. We have we have an 8-year-old son and a 5-year-old son. They're both massive Jaguars fans. My wife's a huge Jags fan. My mother-in-law is from Sweden originally. She lives here now. She is probably the biggest Jags fan of all of us. Season tickets. I don't typically go to the games. I like my mother-in-law and my wife take the boys to the games, and I sit at home and watch on the couch. It's just too hot for me, especially those 1:00 games.
Sure.
And then I went to 3 or 4 of the ones that were the night games a couple of years ago, and they went like 0-3 or 0-4. So I was like, I'm bad luck here. But yeah, overall, like moved here 2017, like I said, and just it was, I don't know, it's just like the perfect franchise for Northeast Florida. It's just it's kind of weird and niche, and everybody's behind them. And I've fallen in love with the franchise, especially now that Trent Baalke is gone. That was kind of the last, like the final boss to really becoming like a lifelong Jags fan. I'm like, all right, this guy has the potential to kill my fandom here. Cause I followed the 49ers pretty closely over the years. I was a big Jim Harbaugh fan, and then Kyle Shanahan, and Baalke is just like the stories of him from San Francisco were legend of just how much of just a bad guy he is. So, so really on that front, Liam coming in and Gladstone and all of that, it's been a dream come true. Even if, like, I think people got a little intoxicated with some of the success early this season, and like we're so early in this process right now.
I want to react to something you said there about Baalke that people just don't. It's been like memory hold at this point. We wanted Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen said, I ain't coming there if Baalke's still here. And that was the catalyst for Shad Khan to toss him out and bring him here. And then he like agreed to be like OC for the Bucks, and then just did an about face. Is like, okay, now that guy's gone, we're free. And I think that's how collectively we feel. But piggybacking off of that about the nicheness of Jacksonville, this is kind of what I've realized, and I want you to kind of react to this. Even on like the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, whenever something like there's like one user, it's like, man, you never hear this like Houston fan said something bad about Barkley, man, 1, 2, 3. We got to go protect his ass. And then like it's just like a swarm mentality on Twitter of Jags fans and such. And that's one thing I've at least seen about Jags fans and the Jaguars organization that kind of makes it pretty memorable and funny. Have you realized any of the same stuff?
Definitely. It's like kind of like a small town mentality, a little bit of like, we look after our own, as long as I think there's some exceptions there, or you kind of got to earn your way a little bit. We can talk Trevor here in a little bit, but, cause I think he's probably, the exception on that front, or there's some dissonance there, but yeah, overall, it's like, I don't want to say it's the only game in town, but it kind of is.
Yes.
And I think it's something that differentiates. Like it's funny because I live out here at the beach, and it's very much, I feel like I live kind of like I live on an island out here. I don't really leave the island all that often. I'll go into San Marco or Riverside or, or the town center occasionally.
You got the niche of the niche.
Yeah. Yeah. But then it's like, it's great. Like we've got an NFL team here. We've got a decent airport. Like, it's like, it's kind of the best of both worlds. Right. Yeah. And yeah, I think it's cool too, because there's so many transplants here, but it seems like there's just something about the Jags that like, there's a certain spirit about them that like, when you move here, it's no, you know what? Like I want to root for the Jags, and it's, it's kind of intoxicating. So.
And for such a losing franchise, it's kind of weird to be. It's like you're intoxicated off the well liquor. Like it's
truly, and the hangovers are bad.
Sure,
yeah. Like even the one, like I feel like when there have been some bouts of success. Obviously, I wasn't here for the stuff in the early '90s. Kind of like started with a lot of momentum there from the start, but even like the pretty early on after I moved here, like the damn near
the Jacksonville year you moved here.
Yeah, and like that was 17 or 18. 17. Yeah. And even that, it felt like kind of a house of cards, and everybody kind of knew it, and the Doug Marrone stuff, but it was still really fun. And then you realize, oh my God, this thing's like not.
It's so over, and we're so bad,
like this thing's not built the right way, and all of that. So I feel like for the first time, we've got it to where there's an actual plan, instead of just like, hey, we're gonna hope these 4 things break right, and then figure it out from there.
And that's been my biggest thing, because you think about the 22 run where we overcome the Chargers there. And the 17 run, there's just been a lack of that sustained success here. And so it always kind of feels fluky and weird. And then you're back to same old Jaguars. But now you got something maybe different. You said we have a plan, or do we have the concepts of a plan? So let's actually, you mentioned the long hair blonde elephant in the room, Trevor. The discourse around him, in my opinion, requires nuance. And that's why it's so hard to talk about him, because it requires nuance. Does he make boneheaded plays? Yes. Does he do his receivers do him dirty? Yes. But does he, that one ball to BTJ against Kansas City, it may be the best throw of the year. Yep. And so it's confounding. And so where do you kind of sit, in this Trevor discourse? And do you agree with kind of like my take that it requires nuance?
For sure. I think with Trevor, I've tried to be really patient. I've tried to, and like even this year, I'm trying to be patient. It's an extremely, by all accounts, it's extremely complicated offense to learn with, they're calling in 2 plays on every play with, they've got a full kill call as well. But it just seems like even I know the drop rate with the receivers is out of control, but I think there's something to like the entire offense seems out of rhythm when and that's not just a this year thing. That's his entire career. There seems to be like a lack of feel and touch and command of the game. Where I liken it to like a pitcher. It's like, are you a thrower or are you a pitcher? And he's a thrower, right? He's not, but he's got that 102 mile an hour fastball and a massive
but he's got
ball.
that one pitch that can.
Exactly. And so it's just really tricky, and it's, I like, I don't think like Brian Thomas. I don't know if he's Liam Cohen's type of receiver. Cohen seems to like bigger dudes, 6'2", 6'3", a little bit more possession stuff. Like you look at what they built down in Tampa with, obviously Mike Evans and Godwin and those guys were already there. But I think, guys that are a little bit like that was the trade for Tim Patrick,
right?
There, right? But I don't know. I just think with Trevor, I give him some grace with Brenton Strange has been banged up and out the last couple of games. But man, there's something missing there. And I can't put my finger on what it is. It's twice a game. It's running out of bounds way behind the line of scrimmage instead of throwing it away, or throwing it 2 yards over the line of scrimmage, or just moving the wrong way in the pocket, or delay of game calls that, it's just,
oh yeah.
And putting balls that are technically catchable, but not leading the guy, or, there's just something that like, I can't, like I said, I can't put my finger on it. It's truly maddening.
It is. Yes. I could agree on that. This is kind of where I may push back gently, would be in the last couple of games, talking about from that San Francisco game, Kansas City, even Seattle and our 2 losses there, and the Rams debacle. I mean, my God. But Trevor himself had been playing pretty good football with a couple of misses. Compared to the first 3 weeks, I thought that there was some steady improvement. And now we're going to the bye week and the back half of the season. I'm having optimism that he's going to, because again, it's a complex system. I think, and I have hope he's going to do it just because of his general QBR and such, even while the offensive line has been, shitting down their pants around him, has been playing a little better. That's my 2 cents. Any response to that?
Yeah, try to give him some grace too. On like in the Seahawks game, Hainsey was out. That's kind of the centerpiece of the line. I don't think it's a great line. I think it's kind of taped together as it is. I'd like to see Travis Hunter get a lot. I think use him as almost get him into the number 1 role, and then get BTJ in the slot more, and just have him kind of in that almost like that Parker Washington role. This is
a wild statement.
Yeah, and I think we were running the hell out of the ball the first quarter of the season there, and I think that's where that was the thing. It was like, all right, we're going to run to pass. Yep. I think as soon as it turns into we're going to pass to run, or try to squeeze the ball out to the flats and kind of use that short passing game as our running game. Right. It's where it just starts to deteriorate quickly.
And that's where some of Trevor's misses can kind of like amplify, take a loss to a bad loss.
Yeah.
Right.
But even like the Chiefs game was a perfect example of like, that was the full spectrum. That was the good stuff. That was the bad stuff. That you can't even really make sense of it.
No.
And that's where I just don't know what the alternative is. Is it, there's not really an escape hatch until end of 26. We don't own our first round pick next year.
Yeah.
We can get into that, but
I think we are tied to him no matter what, because the first year, the 5-year extension doesn't kick in until next year. Yeah. And so we're going to be on this Trevor Lawrence roller coaster. And the question is do we have the maestro, right? Do we have the conductor in Liam Cohen to bring out those skills that we know that he has? And can he, change his own, can you, almost an existential question, can you change your own nature? And that's what's going to be there for Trevor Lawrence, I think.
I think the cap's going up so much that it's not an albatross contract. And I think he can be a league average or even slightly above league average guy, especially if we just got to beef up the line of scrimmage. We gotta it's kind of like, hey, let's play good defense. Let's run the hell out of the ball. Let's pick our spots there. Let's take care of the football. And I think he can be like, turn him into a game manager. Obviously, it's not great to pay a game manager $55 or $60 million a year, but
not ideal.
But it is what it is. And like, I think that's where I have confidence in Baselli and Gladstone and Liam to figure out how to construct a roster in that mold.
So before one last Trevor question before we kind of move on here to the rest of the season and such, you do a good job with comparisons there in your podcast. Is there one PGA player that Trevor most reminds you of?
Yeah, I think there's attributes of different guys. I would say like a Tony Finau. A little bit of like he hits the ball 360 yards.
The unit, yeah.
He can make any throw, and it's like tantalizing skill set. And then
Big Trev.
And then when it comes down to it, you're just kind of like, man, there's something missing here. There's something that's, that it's just not all there. And by all accounts, like super nice guy.
Yeah.
People like him. So I think, Finau would be someone on the European side. I would say like a Victor Hovland maybe as well, of similar thing, like can be weirdly erratic at times, but you can't really make sense of him. But
sometimes those mental
totality
errors
of it,
yeah.
So those would probably be my two.
I think that's a great comparison. Let's put on your let's say your Zaddy Gladstones is like who I like to call James Gladstone. We got. I think I heard Diana Rossini saying something about BTJ is open for trade. I'm not buying that, but we got the trade deadline here coming up. I think it's November 4th. So here in about a week or so. Would you stand pat or would you make changes? And what would you change of the Jaguars?
I think they've already proven, like with the Tyson Campbell trade, that he didn't fit the kind of what they want to do as far as as far as kind of that style of corner. So I think they've already proven they're not afraid to ship somebody out or upset the apple cart there and create some additional flexibility here in the future as far as salary cap's concerned. But yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I think like as far as needs go, I'm really glad they made that deal before the season with the Saints to get the defensive tackle. Like I think that's such a glaring weak spot on the roster. Is just
I think so too.
And I think even with Armstead playing his natural position this year and playing better, it's still massive. Like we just don't have anybody that like truly eats space down there and can control the line of scrimmage.
I agree in this. I think the pie in the sky dream goal would be Quinnen Williams as a defensive tackle. So because Hines Allen has been getting so many pressures and so little sacks. Trayvon Walker's really leveled up this year.
Yeah.
Armstead's playing okay. I just think that initial push to be even more disruptive, because they got some, I think that Jordan Lewis, Eric Murray, and now, and Travis Hunter being inserted, I think our back end, I'm a little worried about Dewey Wingard. But I do think that defensive tackle would be the most apparent swing prior to the trade deadline.
Yeah. But it's tricky because you've got other, I know you got other teams that are in the market for that as well. I know,
right.
Niners are probably all along the defensive line there. But you got some other stuff, and like for missing the first rounder next year, I do think it's worth calling out. Like they've got, they got plenty of day 2, day 3 stuff. So I think you don't want to give too much away, but at the end of the day, I think, hey, if there's something to help out, that's going to be like you look at like the Ezra Cleveland trade a couple of years ago, or was that last year, 2 years ago, or something that's going to have a tail on it beyond this season as well.
Yeah.
Because I do think, like, I would say the other spot is probably, like Anton Harrison. Like, I don't know if you're going to want to extend him once his deal is up, once, or like, I don't even know if you pick up his 5th-year option, right? He's just kind of been mediocre.
I think he started hot, and then we just the last couple of weeks. And I think the left side too on Walker Little has just been concerning. But we just gave him an extension, so it's kind of like I think we're just going to have to live with this paper mache.
That was Balky's parting gift.
Yeah, I know. Give us Walker Weenie Hut Jr. is what I've been calling him here recently.
I think he's a great swing tackle, right? I think he's like very, very versatile. He can play either side. You can move him around. He's not like a cornerstone franchise left tackle. The
bulky special parting gifts.
Yeah,
that's right.
To your question though, like I think the good thing, or you could view this as a negative. I think some of the changes are on the roster. Like I think Travis Hunter's usage so far has been puzzling to say the least. So I think, you've got room for improvement on that front.
Right.
Now I know like that kind of, was it the hamstring or core muscle injury that kind of
for the last part of that preseason.
Yeah, it kind of threw off his development a little bit there, I'm sure. But man, like he looks the part of the number one receiver. Like I would just, hey, let's let him run with that, and then define his role a little bit more on defense as well.
So you think we should go away from the complete 2-player focus 100%?
I'm fine with the 2-way player. I just think, hey, like he's, especially like BTJ, I was blown away in London. He wasn't playing, he wasn't playing a lot of snaps. Like they didn't have him on the field. Like I'm not sure what the exact usage was, but I was blown away at how many plays he wasn't on the field for.
With those drops, you got. I mean, eventually the rubber has to hit the road on that, and that's been because it's been almost every game. There's been a critical drop, and even that pass to him on 3rd and long against Kansas City, he almost dropped that one.
Yeah,
like watch the replay back, And so I don't know what to tell my listeners about BTJ. It's like, hey, give him patience. We've seen what he can do, but 70% of his production last year came from Mac Jones. And that might go back to your original point about Trevor being a thrower and not a pitcher. Does Trevor actually maybe just throw a more uncatchable ball than other quarterbacks?
I think that's part of it. I mean, I think there's, I think there's a lot going on. He's hearing footsteps, and it's like a golfer with the yips, right? Yeah. He's just not, BTJ just doesn't seem like he's in a great place as far as, and there could be a variety of reasons for it. Like he's 100%. He's moving to a new offense as well. Like you got to kind of, I do think I give the front office a lot of credit for bringing in Macari and Hainsey and really solidifying the interior line there. Cause I think, especially with some of the calls as well, getting Hainsey, like he knew the offense already. So I think I think you're seeing that a little bit on the outside as far as the receivers. I'm sure there's just a learning curve there as well with the receivers too. So, I mean, I think, some of that might be smoke. Some of it might be, hey, he's, you've got some definite value there where, a team could kind of nurse him back to health, but instead of us having to give up a second rounder or a third rounder to get something valuable in return, you give up BTJ and then kind of turn over the receiving room into something that more closely resembles what those guys are after.
It's such a fascinating about face. Go back a year ago, and actually just before game 1 of the season. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. I think was drafted 10th or whatever. So the fact that we're even having this conversation it just makes you shake your head. But I mean, we're here. I mean, we're in the bye week, so 4-3. I mean, my God, I think anybody would have taken that coming in. So let's kind of prognosticate here towards the future. We're coming next few games at Las Vegas, at Houston, home Chargers, at Arizona, 2 games against Tennessee, 2 games against the Colts, and one or two, and then the Jets thrown in there. So compared to the beginning, we got a relatively easier stretch. The one thing that's changed is those 2 games against the Colts. Now they're looking like a damn juggernaut. What do you if you were to kind of look into the futures, assuming we stand pat kind of where we are as a team, what do you think's the range of outcomes and the most likely outcome at the end of the day?
I think it's like it's ranked the easiest schedule remaining of any team. I think Vegas is going to be somewhat frisky coming off their bye week.
Battle of the bye week teams.
Yeah, I think, just with they've got Bowers is coming off. It's coming off injury. I think they'll have some clarity around, hey, we're going to try to run the ball a little bit better. They've got a good pass rush, Max Crosby. So I think Houston's going to be resurgent here. I think they're starting to figure it out too.
They are.
Especially as Nico Collins gets healthier and they kind of bring some of those younger receivers along. I don't know. I don't think they're a great football team, but I think they're, definitely with how young their offensive line is. I can see them gelling. That was a good win they had yesterday against the Niners. So that's a tough one. Chargers seem to be, against all odds with all these injuries, playing good football, and Vidal looked good, and then they should get Hampton back at some point. I don't think before that Jags game though.
Probably not.
And then I think from there, it's like we got to take advantage of at Cardinals, at Titans. Titans, I'm sure they're going to be throwing shit against the wall the next few weeks, trying to see what works, like nothing to lose kind of thing. So they might just start playing street ball a little bit. And then, the Colts, Colts look great on both sides of the ball.
I got to finally admit it. Yeah. I'm just like, okay, guys, well done, Shane Steichen. You're a genius.
Yeah. And I could see them getting a little nicked up, either a Daniel Jones injury or something like that. But yeah, and we're at Denver as well. So I think there's some tough games there, but really at the end of the day, we should be right in the thick of it for the division. And then the AFC is just weaker overall this year as well. So, I'm bullish on, I just don't want it to be fool's gold, right? I don't want it to feel like, hey, we got to push our chips in and it's make or break this year. Like this is very much a first, this is like, the preseason of the Gladstone, Baselli, Liam Cohen era.
We are in year one of a rebuild, right? Yes. Guys. Like let's get a little sober here, and I think because that Kansas City win, that was just such a hit of hell yeah to us, and then we lose to a respectable Seahawks team, and then we again that I think without that Rams game, we're looking at this easy so-called easiest schedule a little different. Now I'm looking at it, it's like, hey, it's an easy schedule, and I see some bad things potentially happening. And so I was 11-6. I was on the super high. Fred Taylor said 12-5. I'm thinking 10-7. I'm thinking 10-7 is a reasonable outcome here.
Would you? That'd be 6 wins. That'd be 6 wins. So
I would, and I'll tell you where I put the 6 wins.
Yeah,
Las Vegas, Chargers, Arizona, 2 against Tennessee. 2 against Tennessee, and the Jets.
Okay, that feels doable. That feels, hopefully get healthier as far as, getting Devin Lloyd back, getting the offensive line healthier, getting Strange back in. I think we
need Strange back, man.
Yeah. No, that's Trevor's security blanket, right? And I do think too, Evan Ingram hasn't done anything out in Denver this year. So I think it was, people were up in arms about letting him
win. They were.
Like that was the best decision they made the entire offseason. Was he didn't fit the new scheme, and he was a glorified, receiver. So
because you see Britton Strange is blocking
Yeah.
I mean, Andy's not doing. I think that's a good call. That's maybe one of the most underrated moves because I think at the time I know I was like, no. He's caught like 100 balls. Why are we doing that?
But I do think it's interesting. Like I think it's more valuable this year for them, whether they go 10-7 or 7-10, is like, they're at Wembley. Gladstone and Baselli stood together on the sideline the entire game on like the 20-yard line. And they were watching the game as much as they were watching the sideline and seeing which, who came off the field with a good attitude, or who came off the field, fired up or try and turn this thing around. That game was an unmitigated disaster from the start. Some bad calls went against us, but it was just, the game flow just like got out of hand early. And then the missed field goal and all that. But like it truly looks like they're assessing the stuff, the interactions and the culture stuff as much or more than they are the actual X's and O's.
I love that.
Which I totally agree, especially in year one. Like, hey, we can fine tune the physical attributes or the scheme fit stuff. But yeah, just from like, you want guys that want it, that want to go and get it. Right. And I think that like we're going to find out a lot about this team, especially in that, I think in that stretch, like week 16, week 17 at Denver, at Indianapolis, like that's, 2 weeks in a row on the road there.
And obviously with the bye week, I think it couldn't be better time for some serious introspection. And what you just said about, the front office kind of being there, again, that gives me some optimism that they're going to try something different, and different because they've left, the Jaguars have left so much meat on the bone, in executing their offense, I think. And that gives me reason for optimism too, in the sense that, think about the 49ers game, the Texans game, even. I mean, those could have been blowouts, with a little better execution and a little better catch rate. Let's just call it catch rate, and so it's just kind of this weird hybrid of that positivity, negativity that we're kind of going through. And we'll find out, they're at Las Vegas, and especially they're at Houston, I think is going to be the tone setter is the team going to get more disciplined? I think we have the most flags in the league right now.
Yeah.
And number two, are we actually implementing the offense and streamlining it so the players can play and execute the plays? I think that's probably the big picture, at least my gut telling me. Any quibbles or add-ons to that?
No, not at all. Yeah, it's like two big road stretches. And then I think the other thing is I think the good thing is they're all Sunday night games, right? They're all Sunday games, not Sunday night games. They're all Sunday games. So there's no awkward, weird weeks or anything like that. And then I think, like week 12, week 13, they just got to get the job done at Arizona, at Tennessee. Like,
yep.
When the a hungry Arizona team, Kyler Murray kind of playing for his job, Jonathan Gannon coaching for his job there. So, and that's a pretty, I think that's a pretty talented defense, especially.
Yeah.
So,
and we haven't touched on the defense yet. And I even thought stretches against even the Rams and the Seahawks losses, they played well. They're just not generating those. I think they're so turnover dependent. But again, and you're just wanting more from the safety position. I think Wingard's getting torched, and then again that interior of the front is what's worrying me the most. Any kind of thoughts on defense before we kind of have some parting thoughts?
I'm curious to see what the rest of the season looks like for Trayvon Walker. I'm kind of a Trayvon Walker homer. I was never a huge Aiden Hutchinson fan. I know those two are kind of attached at the hip from a just in perpetuity from like a draft perspective. But I was impressed with him last year. I know he's got the wrist or the hand issue this year,
club
going on. Yeah. But I think at some point that's got to turn into production here this year. So we'll see what happens there. And then, I think overall, like the weirdest thing about the London game was the special teams. Like I think that was something we prided ourselves on was the the special teams was good. Logan Cook's best in class. Cam Little, Cam Little missing kicks like that. I mean, really bad call on the
Parker Washington's been holding up his part.
But and then even like a guy like LaQuinn Allen Jr. or like just some of those guys around the periphery that they brought in that that those guys have flashed. They've been very good. So I think kind of winning that phase of the game is a big thing too. So I think as we move forward here, it's just like play fundamental football. I don't think there's a whole I'd love to see like Bracial Tootin kind of
me too.
Just grab this thing by the horns a little bit, especially, from a, like, even just like pass protection or like just gaining trust of like, all right, you know what? Like we are good to go all in on him. Here's move forward.
And good call on that. Cause I don't know when Bucky Irving started to take over for, what was it? Rashad White last year. And I think it wasn't until like week 10 or 11. And that might be something to just kind of keep an eye out for. Moving forward, because Etienne's been playing good, very good. But I think, look, you just see that burst, and some of the touchdowns that that Tootin's had has just been really impressive. So we'll see what happens there. I guess so. TC, let's try to sum these things up here. What do you think the national reputation of the Jaguars, the 4-3 Jaguars, is right now, and how fair is it?
I think the reputation is, hey, these guys are
frauds,
fraudulent. Yeah, they're not all the way there, which I wouldn't call them frauds. I don't think they're ready to take out of the oven yet, but they're not fully baked yet. But I don't think they're frauds,
as they would say.
And I think what we need to see is just continual improvement, right? Like a guy like Mason Smith up front, like interior D line, like cool. Like it's time to shit or get off the pot, big man. Like that's, stay healthy, be a force down there. Like just seeing some bright spots in some unexpected places, I think would go a long way, and then make it to where, all right, we can, really have a coherent plan getting into the second half of the year, getting into the off season as well. Cause I'm trying to look at this more from like, what's this team's upside? I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. And I don't think they're, maybe they sneak into the wild card or even the divisional round, but I'm looking more for like signs of like who's going to be here in 2 years, who's going to be here in 3 years, who are your cornerstone pieces, like who can Gladstone and Baselli and Liam trust, right?
So I think you're right about it's like we have the reputation of being frauds. But I don't think that is entirely fair. But I think the bigger picture is what you just said. Because remember 2017, remember 2022, that sustained success, right? Are we actually building a winning team that can win 2 years in a row, right? And have a winning season 2 years in a row, be able to build into something, long haul. I'm feeling optimistic about that currently. And it sounds like you are too. Am I wrong?
I'm long this team. I mean, I'm long this, I think Baselli's a dude. Gladstone, like I went to high school. My quarterback in high school was Sean McVay. So I've followed the Rams very, very closely for the last decade. And just talking to people over there and seeing the way that he's conducted business, I think Gladstone, I think he knows what he's doing. I think Liam has a very clear sense of the players that he needs and the culture that he wants to build. Like I loved him taking accountability too for that clip that they put out of him saying, hey, you know what? Like I should not be putting you guys in this position on a 3rd and long, on a 4th and long. So, I think there's, like for the first time, I feel like they're building the right foundation instead of just like, instead of just like buying a beater of a car and then putting some rims on it. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of that, it's like, hey, no, like there's no crack. Like we're fixing the cracks in the foundation and, the electrical system and the plumbing are in good shape before we start painting the walls and before we start, retiling the bathroom. Right?
So the TC Vision Fund is buying the Jags as a long-term hold, huh?
I am, yeah, for sure.
Right,
and
cool.
then, it'll probably be a weird next couple of years too, just with the stadium renovation. And I'm sure, I think next year probably pretty business as usual, but 27, I imagine that they say, all right, we're going to play, whether it's Orlando or Gainesville, we'll probably only play 4 games there. And I bet they play 4 in London.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how that shakes out logistically. Let's do 2 little quick hitters before we get out of here. All right. Over under. One thing to note, we had 3 primetime games in 2013 after our run to the divisional round. Over under 2.5 national primetime games next year. What are you taking?
Are we counting Thursday night as
we're counting? We are counting Thursday. We're counting the Bezos Bowl.
I'll say over because I bet they get flexed into one.
Okay.
At the very least to late season. So I would imagine they're probably for sure on the Sunday night, and then they'll definitely have a Thursday night.
I think we get one of each. I think we get Thursday, Monday, Sunday. That's my hope, and that's a dangerous thing as a Jaguars fan.
I think the Travis Hunter bump is real, and people, there's some excitement there.
Man, that kid's got juice, and I think, and that all depends on what the rest of the season holds. It really does on how much of that juice is going to carry over into next year, right?
Yeah.
And then the last one I got for you: if the 2025 Jags were a Jacksonville area golf course, what would they be and why?
Oh man, it's a really good question. Let's see here. All right, I will. I'm actually playing there tomorrow morning. I'm gonna say Hyde Park, where we've got I hadn't played there in a couple of years.
Yeah,
I love the layout. It's an unbelievable whether you want to say it's Donald Ross or Stanley Thompson. There's some disagreement there on who actually designed it. Which, hey, there could be some disagreement here on, is this a bulky team still, or right. Is this a Gladstone team? But I think the bones are there. It's got some of the best holes. I think 2 or 3 of the best holes in all of Jacksonville are at Hyde Park. If you can look past just some of the agronomy, but it's getting better. There's grass on the greens now. They've fixed some of the irrigation issues, some of the drainage issues. They're building a new clubhouse that should open up later this year.
I played there about 9 months ago, and I was like, it's just a weird experience kind of playing that.
Playing there 4 or 5 years ago, there wasn't any grass on the greens, or there wasn't, it was like, man, this place, it's such a good piece of land.
Right.
And there's so much more land movement and just, kind of tumbling, especially on that back 9, tumbling terrain than anywhere else in Jacksonville. So I think its best days are probably ahead of it. It's got, kind of new management or new ownership, kind of injecting some, so obviously we don't have new ownership, but it feels like we've got competent management. Exactly.
An excellent metaphor to close out the interview. Tron Carter, TC, thank you for being here. Check them out. No laying up. If you haven't heard of them and you're watching me, what's wrong with you? Go check some of the best golf content out there. TC, thank you for sharing your ball knowing skills here with us today.
Thanks for having me. Go Jags.
Go Jags. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thanks again to TC Tron Carter. How cool is that to have him on? Once again, would like to thank Campione Law for helping me put on this thing, right? When you get hurt and it ain't your fault and you didn't ask to be hurt, give us a shout. We'd be happy to help. We didn't do an opening segment, but we are doing the Claws of History. And in this week's Claws of History, as we just lost in London, the Jaguars, we entered the bye week not as victors, but as survivors. We're limping home across the pond after, an embarrassing defeat with flags, sacks, drop balls. And it's just stripped away this armor of swagger that we had held after the KC Monday night win. And right now we're face to face with, are we frauds or are we not, right? This week's Clause of History. Winter 1977. Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. General George Washington's army is bloodied, starving, retreated from the humiliation of the fall of Philadelphia to the British after a couple of early wins by the colonials and the revolutionaries. They were licking their wounds in the cold. The British, at this point, they were polished, professional, precise, and they handed Washington another reminder that ideas don't win wars. Troops, execution does. And yet, history remembers what happened after Valley Forge. Because Valley Forge in that winter was not about triumph, it was about transformation. And the Jaguars have a chance to transform themselves here in this bye week. But back to the 18th century, in the blood and the mud of Valley Forge, George Washington, met a man by the name of Baron von Steuben, a Prussian officer. Von Steuben barely spoke any English, but he understood discipline like a second language. And he drilled the Continental Army that winter day after day, teaching men who once fired muskets like farmers, how to move like soldiers, how to reload, march, hold the line. By the end of that winter, come spring, that same ragtag army emerged leaner, meaner, and for the first time, professional. They hadn't added talent. They forged cohesion. And that's where the Jaguars may be right now. The loss to the Rams wasn't just a game. It could be their Valley Forge, right? A reminder that potential means nothing without precision. Think about all of the flags, most flags in the league. Think about all the given sacks. Think about all of the drop balls. And right now, our von Steuben needs to be Liam Cohen to enforce this discipline, to enforce and lead this team through a bye week into an easy stretch of a schedule to make a playoff run, right? The AFC's wide open. So we have our bye. But I know, no banners fly mid-season. No statues rise for teams in Halloween, beginning of November. Discipline is born in the dirt, not in the victory parades, right? So when the Jaguars return, hopefully they're rested. Hopefully they're recalibrated. And maybe they're a little angry. I hope they're a little angry. And remember that greatness isn't defined by how you celebrate after a win. Greatness is defined on how you recover after a loss. It's how you regroup after humiliation, how you transform, a rainy loss in Wembley to a spark that ignites a march towards the playoffs. Because every contender has its Valley Forge. The question is for the Jaguars, will Jacksonville have its Yorktown, its final victory over the British? We'll find out this Sunday in Las Vegas. That's it for our show. Special thanks to TC. Special thanks to Campione Law. Remember, buy UM coverage, uninsured motorists. The folks who have the worst insurance probably cause the most accidents. So what's going to protect you when you're in one? This is Seth Studer signing out. See you in 2 weeks.